Hello, my name is Latalia Seitner, but I prefer Talia. And today I'll be discussing early literacy skill assessment focused on decoding and the core phonics survey. I selected decoding because it's one of the most important foundational skills for beginning readers and older students who may struggle with word recognition and foundation. In this presentation, I will explain, what decoding is, why it matters for future reader development, and how core phonics survey can be used to access decoding, how teachers can use the results to plan instructions with cultural responsive classroom assessment system. Purpose and central claim. The purpose of this presentation is to show how a teacher can use this assessment data to better understand students' early literacy and foundation skills. My central claim is that decoding is foundational because students cannot consistently understand a text if they're struggling to recognize word accuracy automatically. I also am arguing that core phonics is the best understood diagnostic and secondary as informal classroom-based assessment. It should not be used as a standalone high stake. Instead, it is most helpful after a teacher has already noticed concerns through screening data, classroom work, or oral reading performances, just to gauge where the student is. Decoding defined. Decoding is the process of translating printed words into spoken language, literally breaking down every single sound to make a complete word. It includes using letters, sound relationships, spelling patterns, syllable knowledge, and meaningful words that that help reading accuracy. I think it's important not to define decoding too narrowly. Decoding is more than just sounding out words. As students grow, I think decoding also recognizes more complex spelling patterns, reading words, and using suffixes in root words. This matters because even older students can struggle with decoding. I see it often, and sometimes that weakens what comprehension looks like. And that is the real issue or inaccuracy within word recognition. So, why does decoding matter for future reading development? Decoding matters because comprehension becomes much harder when students cannot recognize accurately or fluently. If students spend too much time mentally trying to figure out each word, there's less attention for understanding or understanding for the meaning of the text. I think weak decoding can also affect fluency, vocabulary growth, confidence, and motivation. Students avoid reading because it feels frustrating and embarrassing. Over time, that can limit their exposure to grade level texts, and this is why decoding matters so much and why it's so important. It helps teachers identify targeted skills students need before those gaps become larger. Selected assessment and clarification. For this presentation, I selected Core Phonics Survey. This assessment fits under the category of informational phonics, innovative because it helps teachers and students examine decoding and word analysis skills. I would classify the Core Phonics Survey as primarily diagnostics because it helps students who are struggling. A broad screen may tell a student who is at risk, but this is not to show me exactly where the student breakdown is happening. Core gives me specific information about phonic patterns, word reading, and decoding needs. It also informs classroom based because it can be administered by a teacher and used directly for instructional planning. Assessment type compared with other measurables. It is important to understand the difference between screening, diagnostic assessments, and monitoring. A screening asks who may be at risk. A diagnostic asks why is the student struggling, and a progress monitoring format asks Is this intervention working? The Core Phonics Survey fits best as a diagnostic tool because it gives the teacher more information about decoding breakdowns. For example, if a student is struggling on a general reading screening, I still need to know whether the issue is vowels, vowel teams, or another word reading pattern. Core helps the teacher move forward in a general concern to a more targeted and strategic instructional plan. What Core measures about student learning? The Core Phonics Survey measures the alphabetic and word analysis knowledge students use when decoding. A teacher can use it to examine whether a student understands letter sounds, relationships, blending, comma, spelling patterns, and more complex patterns. What I like about this assessment is that it doesn't just give a general label of a low reader. Instead, it gives a skill profile. A student may be strong with the simple consonant, vowel, consonant words, but struggling with vowel teams. This information tells me where the instruction should begin. What the information in the data provides is the most useful information is that the core pattern often focuses on student patterns of errors. This is not only looking for whether a student is working wrong, but the teacher is also looking for patterns across the assessment. For example, the data may show a student may have mastered basic consonants but inconsistent with long vowel patterns. Another student may decode one syllable word accurately but is struggling with words becoming larger. This type of information helps the teacher group students by need, choose an appropriate entry point for intervention, and avoid every struggling reader same generic support. Overall, I recommend using the Core Phonics Survey as a part of a balanced assessment system. It should be combined with screening data, classroom observations, spelling work, fluency, and connected text reading. Used this way, the assessment can help teachers identify students' needs, plan for targeted instruction, and support future reading success. Thank you so much.